Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze how Arsenal comfortably defeated Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds United. So in today's video, first we're going to focus on Arsenal's pressing, then quickly shift to how Leeds looked to disrupt Arsenal's build-up play, and then we'll focus on how Arsenal's movement and shape helped them bypass Leeds United's backline. So when we break down the game and we do look at the board, we have Leeds United in a 4-2-3-1 and Arsenal starting in a 4-4-1-1. So first we're going to look at Leeds United's pressing, and it was man-to-man as expected, and what we ended up seeing was that they were conceding the 1v2 battle with the striker and the center backs. They would have Raphinha and Harrison stepping towards Tomiyasu and Tierney, and then in that midfield zone, what you'd end up seeing is that you would have Robert sitting on Thomas, Click stepping towards Xhaka, and then Forshaw was tracking the movement of Odegaard. That does leave a 2v1 as well for Leeds against Lacazette, and then Dallas and Drame were tasked with dealing with Martinelli and Saka. So what we ended up seeing from this Leeds United side was that there were times where they had Raphinha stepping with their center forward to close down Gabriel, and then that left a free lane for Tierney to get on the ball to push forward. There were times where you did have Drame stepping towards him, and that left Martinelli free as Colt didn't step across to close down Martinelli, but that's what you ended up needing from Leeds United. If Drame did step to Tierney and one of the central midfielders weren't shifting across, then you would need the center back to shift over while Ayling can deal with Lacazette. We did witness some variation from Leeds in terms of Robert stepping towards the center backs and the center forward dropping off to close down Thomas Partey, and there were times where they both stepped forward to block off the passing lane into Thomas Partey as they were looking to close down the center backs. Ideally, another option for Bielsa would be to have the center forward stepping towards White, for example, and blocking off the passing lane into Gabriel, or vice versa, where he'd step to Gabriel and block off the passing lane into White to force the center back into Ramsdale. Ultimately, another threat that Arsenal could pose is by having Lacazette dropping off deeper into that midfield zone to create an overload. But there we ended up seeing the center back following Lacazette into that midfield zone to apply pressure. Xhaka attempted to drop off into an inside left position to get on the ball, but Click did track him to close him down and apply pressure. Therefore, the other only legitimate option that Leeds United could revert to is by having Robert stepping forward to close down the center back, block off the passing lane into Thomas Partey, and if Click couldn't shift across to deal with Thomas Partey, Forshaw could step forward and then have Ayling step towards Odegaard. For the most part, what we ended up seeing was that Leeds struggled to deal with the center backs pushing forward because they always had that 2v1 advantage, and they were able to step in towards the halfway line, play passes out into the wider areas, and help get Arsenal's front four and at times the midfield duo into attacking positions. Arsenal's pressing, on the other hand, was straightforward and effective. They persisted with Lacazette stepping towards the center backs, Martinelli and Saka were stepping towards Dallas, and they tried to maintain that midfield battle in a 3v3 with Odegaard sticking towards Forshaw, Xhaka stepping to Click, and then Thomas Partey tracking the movement of Roberts. However, there were times where Saka did step towards Ayling and block off the passing lane into Dallas, and even when Saka was bypassed, he was able to drop off deeper to close him down. There were times where Tomiyasu couldn't step because if Saka was bypassed, you'd expect Tomiyasu to step towards Dallas and White to shift across to Harrison. But if Harrison occupied the touchline, then Tomiyasu would remain in this position. You could also have Thomas Partey shifting out towards Dallas to apply pressure, and then have White stepping towards Robert, who would look to attack the vacant space in between the lines. And the other alternative for Arsenal in these situations was that if you didn't have Thomas Partey or Saka shifting towards Dallas, they'd have Saka stick with Dallas, and then Odegaard stepping towards Ayling and blocking off the passing lane into Forshaw. In that situation, you'd have Thomas Partey or Xhaka stepping towards Forshaw and leaving their marker and Click or Roberts free, and that's where you would have a center back stepping forward to close down the spare man. Therefore, when you break down how Arsenal were able to comfortably deal with Leeds United in practically the opening half, what we ended up seeing was that we know that Leeds United do look to press and man mark across the pitch, and what we witnessed from Arsenal was that they simply got their markers away from that pressure by drifting laterally, dropping off deeper and spinning around their marker to break in behind. We witnessed the forward movement of Odegaard running off Forshaw into attacking positions. In terms of Lacazette, he would drop off deeper and he'd look to combat aerial duels with the center backs, and you would see Martinelli and Saka looking to make runs across their fullbacks into space and behind. And we also look to see Xhaka dropping off into his inside left position away from Klich to get on the ball, and if Klich doesn't step forward towards him, he was able to play positive passes. But here you can see Arsenal's attacking play develop with Lacazette dropping off to pull out the center back and Xhaka not being closed down tightly, so he plays the ball in between the right back and the center back gap for Tierney making a run off Raphinha. Now you can see that Tierney is beyond Raphinha and looking to break into left half space, and that's due to Lacazette's movement pulling out the center back and Xhaka not being closed tightly. And from there you could see that Tierney's placed in a legitimate goal scoring position to test the keeper. Here we witness Xhaka on the ball in his own third ahead of his midfield marker and Raphinha, and he splits both to find Lacazette dropping off into his own half. You could see that the center back steps late and Lacazette's able to turn, and that's where he catches Drame's poor positioning and Martinelli making a run into the left channel to break into Leeds United's third. Martinelli in particular did look to drift laterally from the left hand side, and that was to pull away Drame and have Tierney peg back Raphinha. And there were times where we witnessed Lacazette dropping deeper into that inside left position or looking to drop into the gap between the center back and the right back, whereas Martinelli would adopt more central positions in between the center backs. Meanwhile, we witnessed Lacazette and Odegaard dropping into that midfield zone, pulling away a center back or Forshaw, and then looking to spin in behind to run at the back four. If they weren't looking to make those runs, then they were looking to play positive passes in beyond the Leeds United backline. If we look to an example, here you can see Roberts getting tight on White, and focus on the movement of Odegaard pulling out Forshaw and Saka dropping off of Dallas. When Saka receives the ball, he looks to instantly play it into the path of Odegaard, who spins across Forshaw to receive the ball freely. And when Saka lays the ball off to Odegaard because Dallas isn't tight, you could see Odegaard carrying the ball beyond the Leeds United midfield bank, and that's how he's able to lead the break for Arsenal into their final third. Here we witness White stepping towards the halfway line and Roberts not applying pressure as the center forward sitting on Thomas Partey, and you witness Ayling being dragged out by Lacazette. The reason why this is important is that Lacazette creates a large gap between the center back and the right back and left back, and what White ends up doing, because he isn't closed down by Roberts, is that he locates the movement of Lacazette running across Ayling, and from there he simply slides the ball across Ayling for Lacazette, which places him in the Leeds third, and that helps Arsenal get into attacking positions. Odegaard in particular in the opening stages did a very good job of getting himself into space in between the lines and playing teammates into legitimate goal scoring positions in the final third. And apart from Arsenal's varied movement, the other manner in which they were able to get themselves into these dangerous positions in the final third was simply down to sloppy Leeds United passing. What you often ended up witnessing was that Arsenal were able to close down effectively and efficiently out in the wider areas, and they forced Leeds United into several mistakes. In the build-up to Arsenal's opening goal, you could witness Saka, Thomas Partey, and Tomiyasu closing down Harrison at the touchline, and that results in Harrison playing a loose back pass intended for Dallas into the path of Saka. That results in Saka carrying the ball towards the Leeds United penalty area and dragging away 4 defenders towards him, and what you could see is Xhaka making a forward run freely towards the penalty area, and Lacazette backing into the center back. Saka ends up playing the ball into Lacazette, and he's able to spin across his marker and square the ball into Xhaka, making that forward run beyond Klich. As that play develops, you could see that Klich does make a tackle on Xhaka to halt his forward run. From there, you're expecting Leeds United to clear their lines, but the ball falls to Forshaw, and that's where you witness Lacazette stepping in to make a challenge at the edge of their box, and the ball rolls into the path of Martinelli, who finishes superbly from point blank range. In the build-up to Arsenal's second goal, it's Dallas sliding the ball beyond Klich into the path of Xhaka, who wins possession in and around the halfway circle. Then he carries the ball into that zone and he locates Martinelli, making making a run into the right back center back gap and slides the ball into that zone for Martinelli to receive the ball in this position beyond Drame. And although the right back does well to recover, he ends up poking the ball into the path of Martinelli, who's able to chip the keeper from this position. If you look to Arsenal's third goal, Tomiyasu isn't close tightly by Somerville, and focus on Odegaard's movement as he's in a pocket of space ahead of Forshaw, and Ayling's looking to step forward to apply pressure late. What you should also focus on is the movement of Saka looking to make a run across Dallas, and when Odegaard receives the ball, you witness both Forshaw and Ayling stepping towards him late, and that's where he's able to locate Saka's run off Dallas's shoulder, and Odegaard simply bypasses both Leeds United players to find Saka breaking in behind, and you could witness Martinelli looking to make a run between the center back and Drame. Ultimately, this is the issue that Leeds United encounter after that. Here you can see a challenge is made on Saka, but they don't clear their lines, and as that play develops, you witness Lacazette and Saka close down in the penalty area, but once again, Saka is able to regain possession, and this is where you witness the overlapping run from Odegaard ahead of Drame, which means that he has to track the movement of Odegaard, and that allows Saka to control the ball onto his left foot, where he fires a deflected effort beyond the keeper. Ultimately, we witness something similar for Arsenal's fourth goal, as Xhaka, Odegaard, and Smith Rowe are closing down Roberts, and his only passing option is Drame. However, unfortunately for Leeds, Roberts plays a loose pass that Smith Rowe intercepts, and now you could see Odegaard prepared to run off Forshaw to break into Leeds United's half. That ultimately results in Odegaard carrying the ball into the final third, with Smith Rowe and Lacazette occupying the center backs and the full backs, and ultimately what we end up seeing is Odegaard sliding the ball across the center back for Smith Rowe running across Drame, and from this position he's able to kill off the game. So as you can see, this was a relatively straightforward result for Arsenal, as efficient pressing, varied movement, and sloppy play from Leeds ensured Arteta's men remain in the top four.